Welcome back, everybody, to the Anarchist audio library. Today we are going to be reading an article written by This Will Hold on Substack, June 11th, 2025, titled, "She Won. They Didn't Just Change the Machines, They Rewired the Election." I think it's important to bring this up because Trump explicitly admitted on microphone that they stole the election. I firmly believe that every right-wing accusation is a confession. It begins. The Dark Enlightenment Coup. The missing votes uncovered in Smart Elections' legal case in Rockland County, New York, are just the tip of the iceberg, an iceberg that extends across the swing states and into Texas. On Monday, an investigator's story finally hit the news cycle. ProVNV, one of only 2 federally accredited testing labs, approved sweeping last-minute updates to ES&S voting machines in the months leading up to the 2024 election, without independent testing, public disclosure, or full certification review. These changes were labeled, quote, de minimis, unquote, a term meant for trivial tweaks, but they touched ballot scanners, altered reporting software, and modified audit files, yet were all rubber-stamped with no oversight. That revelation is a shock to the public, but for those who've been digging into the bizarre election data since November, this isn't the headline. It's the final piece to the puzzle. While ProVNV was quietly updating equipment in plain sight, a parallel operation was unfolding behind the curtain, between tech giants and Donald Trump. And it started with a long-forgotten sale. He inserts a brief piece of a ProPublica article. How a secretive billionaire handed his fortune to the architect of the right-wing takeover of the courts. In the largest known political advocacy donation in U.S. history, industrialist Barry Said founded a new group run by Federalist Society co-chair Leonard Leo, who guided Trump's Supreme Court picks and helped end federal abortion rights. A power cord becomes a backdoor. In March 2021, Leonard Leo, the judicial kingmaker behind the modern conservative legal machine, sold a quiet Chicago company by the name of Triplite for $1.65 billion. The buyer? Eaton Corporation, a global power infrastructure conglomerate that just happened to have a partnership with Peter Thiel's Palanteer. To most, Triplite was just a hardware brand, battery backups, surge protectors, power strips, but in America's elections, Triplite devices were something else entirely. They are physically connected to ES&S central tabulators and electionware servers, and Dominion tabulators and central servers across the country. And they aren't dumb devices, they are smart UPS units, programmable, updatable, and capable of communicating directly with the election system via USB, serial port, or Ethernet. ES&S systems, including central tabulators and electionware servers, rely on Triplite UPS devices. ES&S's electionware suite runs on Windows OS, which automatically trusts connected UPS hardware. If Eaton pushed an update to those UPS units, it could have gained root-level access to the host tabulation environment without ever modifying certified election software. In Dominion's Democracy Suite 5.17, the drivers for these UPS units are listed as, quote-unquote, optional, meaning they can be updated remotely without triggering certification requirements or oversight. Optional means unregulated. Unregulated means invisible. And invisible means perfect for infiltration. A new purpose for the partnership. After the Triplite acquisition, Eaton stayed under the radar. But in May 2024, it resurfaced with an announcement that escaped most headlines. Eaton was deepening its partnership with Palanteer Technologies. Let's be clear, Palanteer wasn't brought in for customer service. It was brought in to do what it does best: manage, shape, and secure vast streams of data, quietly. According to Eaton's own release, Palanteer's role would include AI-driven oversight of connected infrastructure, automated analysis of large datasets, and, most critically, secure erasure of digital footprints. the digital janitor, also known as forensic sanitization. It was now being embedded into Eaton-managed hardware connected directly to voting systems. Palanteer didn't change the votes, it helped ensure you'd never prove it if someone else did. Ballot Proof, the front end for scrubbing democracy. Enter the ballot scrubbing platform Ballot Proof, co-created by Ethan Chautran, a longtime employee of Elon Musk and current Doge employee. Ballot Proof was pitched as a transparency solution, an app to quote-unquote verify scanned ballot images and support election integrity. With Palanteer's AI controlling the back end and Ballot Proof cleaning the front, only one thing was missing: the signal to go live. September 2024, Eaton and Musk make it official. Then came the final public breadcrumb. In September 2024, Eaton formally partnered with Elon Musk. The stated purpose? A vague, forward-looking collaboration focused on, quote, grid resilience, unquote, and, quote, next-generation communications, unquote. But buried in the partnership documents was this line, quote, exploring integration with Starlink's emerging low-orbit DTC infrastructure for secure operational continuity, unquote. The activation, Starlink goes direct to cell. That signal came on October 30th, 2024, just days before the election. Musk activated 265 brand new low Earth orbit, or LEO, V2 mini satellites, each equipped with direct-to-cell, or DTC technology capable of processing, routing, and manipulating real-time data, including voting data, through his satellite network. DTC doesn't require routers, towers, or a traditional SIM. It connects directly from satellite to any compatible device, including embedded modems in quote-unquote air-gapped voting systems, smart UPS units, or unsecured auxiliary hardware. From that moment on, commands could be sent from orbit, patch delivery became invisible to domestic monitors, and compromised devices could be triggered remotely. This groundbreaking project that should have taken 2+ years to build was completed in just under 10 months. Elon Musk boasts endlessly about everything he's launching, building, buying, or even just thinking about, whether it's real or not, but he pulls off one of the largest and fastest technological feats in modern-day history and says nothing? One might think that was kind of, quote-unquote, weird. Lasers from space. According to New York Times reporting, on October 5th, just before Starlink's DTC activation, Musk texted a confidant, quote, I'm feeling more optimistic after tonight. Tomorrow we unleash the anomaly in the matrix, unquote. And then an hour later, quote, this isn't something on the chessboard, so they'll be quite surprised. Lasers from space, unquote. It read like a riddle. In hindsight, it was a blueprint. Let's review what was in place. Here in the article, there is a table. First, component, and then function. Component, Eaton and Triplite. Function, installed on Dominion and ESNS systems, enabled firmware-level access to vote infrastructure. Component, Palanteer. Function, AI platform that analyzed, altered, or erased logs and ballot metadata in real time. Component, Ballot Proof. Function, front-end tool that triaged or suppressed digital ballot images. Component, Starlink DTC. Function, delivered remote command and control access without terrestrial detection. Component, ProVNV. Function, certified unmonitored updates under quote, de minimis, unquote, exemptions for both ESNS and Dominion systems. This wasn't a theory, it was a full-scale operation, a systemic digital occupation, cleaned, credentialed, and remote-controlled. Again, in the article, the author inserts a few different graphs. First is the Ohio drop-off vote, comparing Ohio 2016 drop-off to Ohio 2024 drop-off. Then swing versus non-swing states and drop off. The outcome, Data that makes no statistical sense. A clean sweep in all 7 swing states. The fall of the blue wall. 88 counties flipped red. Not one flipped blue. Every victory landed just under the threshold that would trigger an automatic recount. Donald Trump outperformed expectations in down-ballot races with margins never before seen, while Kamala Harris simultaneously underperformed in those exact same areas. If one were to accept these results at face value, Donald Trump, a 34-count convicted felon, supposedly outperformed Ronald Reagan. According to the co-founder of the Election Truth Alliance, quote, "These anomalies didn't happen nationwide. They didn't even happen across all voting methods. This just doesn't reflect human voting behavior," unquote. They were concentrated, targeted, specific to swing states and Texas, and specific to Election Day voting. And the supposed explanation? Quote, "Her policies were unpopular," unquote. Let's think this through logically. We're supposed to believe that in all the battleground states, Democratic voters were so disillusioned by Vice President Harris's platform that they voted blue down ballot, but flipped to Trump at the top of the ticket? Not in early voting, not by mail, with exception to Nevada, only on Election Day, and only after a certain threshold of ballots had been cast, where VP Harris's numbers began to diverge from her own party, and Trump suddenly beginning to surge. As President Biden would say, come on, man. In the world of Election Day analysis, there's a term for that: vote-flipping algorithm. Billionaires and tech giants pulled off the crime of the century. Why? There wasn't just one reason. There were many. Elon Musk himself hinted at the stakes. He faced the real possibility of a prison sentence if Trump lost. He launched his bid for Twitter at $20 billion over market value just 49 days after Putin invaded Ukraine. That alone should have raised every red flag, but when the ROI is $15 trillion in mineral rights tied to Ukraine losing the war and geopolitical deals Trump could greenlight, it wasn't a loss, it was leverage. It's no secret Musk was in communication with Putin for over 2 years. He even granted Starlink access to Russian forces. That's not just profiteering, that's treason. Then there's Peter Thiel and the so-called, quote, broligarchs, unquote, tech billionaires who worship at the altar of shower-avoidant blogger Curtis Yarvin. They casually joke about, quote, humane genocide for non-producers, unquote, and have long viewed democracy as a nuisance, an obstacle to their vision of hyper-capitalism and themselves as the permanent ruling elite. Well, what is the elimination of Medicaid if not, quote, humane genocide, unquote? And does anyone really wonder why his 40-year-old protege and political rookie J.D. Vance is vice president? With this technology in place, if the third-term legislation were to pass, it would hand Vance a minimum of 12 years at the helm of Thiel's regime. And of course, Donald Trump himself. He spent a year telling his followers he didn't need their votes, at one point stating, quote, in 4 years you don't have to vote again, we'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote, unquote. Readers note, the source for this is from Reuters, link is in the article. Trump was facing 88 felony indictments. He was so desperate to avoid conviction and locked in a decades-long alliance with Vladimir Putin, an alliance that's now impossible to ignore. Look no further than his policy trail. He froze aid to Ukraine and has threatened to place sanctions on them while planning to lift sanctions off of Russia. He openly campaigned for anti-EU candidates and sided with Russia in multiple key United Nations votes related to the Ukraine conflict. Let's be clear, Donald Trump pledges allegiance to a red, white, and blue flag. It's just not the American one. What happens now? We don't need permission to enforce the Constitution. We need courage. While state attorneys general begin their investigation, it only takes one U.S. senator to initiate the disqualification proceedings against the unelected and unfit occupant of the Oval Office. State attorneys general and investigators conduct independent audits of UPS firmware on Dominion and ES&S machines, subpoena communications between Eaton, Palanteer, Starlink employees, and ProVNV, audit Starlink satellite logs for the week of the election, freeze uncertified infrastructure updates, and recount physical ballots by hand. Now they're rolling out the same technological toolkit abroad, forcing countries into Starlink contracts in exchange for tariff relief. The US election wasn't their endgame. It was their litmus test. Want the truth they're not telling you? For fearless reporting and expert-backed research, read the Common Coalition Report. And if you believe in funding real independent work, support our all-volunteer team. Thanks for reading along with me. This has been She Won. They Didn't Just Change the Machines, They Rewired the Election, written by This Will Hold, June 11th, 2025.